Immigration authorities will now be permitted to make arrests if they so choose in churches and schools where people here illegally may be trying to take safe harbor.
The new administrative directive rolls back a stance from the Biden administration. Fox 10's Lauren Clark joins us now to share how this is garnering both praise and some criticism.
Good afternoon, guys. Yeah, a lot of emotions on both sides here. Pro-immigration advocates fear that this could create fears for even legal immigrants to go in places like churches or schools. Meanwhile, the Trump administration stresses that this is specifically directed towards serious criminals and also say that they trust law enforcement to do the right thing when implementing these new guidelines. The order rescinds the Biden administration's directive for the agency, prohibiting federal immigration authorities from arresting suspected undocumented immigrants in sensitive areas like churches, schools, weddings, or funerals. It's a stance Arizona Democratic State Senator Annalise Ortiz believes is misguided and harmful.
This will lead to families being separated.
But the Trump administration said the policy is designed to target those with dangerous criminal histories and believes law enforcement will act wisely and professionally with these new guidelines. The Department of Homeland Security described the move in a statement, writing, "This action empowers the brave men and women in CBP and ICE to enforce our immigration laws and catch criminal aliens, including murderers and rapists who have illegally come into our country. Criminals will no longer be able to hide in America's schools and churches to avoid arrest. The Trump administration will not tie the hands of our brave law enforcement and instead trust them to use common sense." Yet several Republicans praised the move, pointing to the unprecedented number of border crossings in the past few years. The issue of immigration was a top one for voters and one President Trump campaigned strongly on towards a victory. But how schools and churches will comply is still unclear.
They're starting out going after criminals. Criminals are not kids in school. And even if they extend it to people who are not criminals, they would be going after the adults. It wouldn't do them any good to go after the kids. So I don't think they're going to come into the schools.
Students now again on Monday is when President Trump signed the executive orders enhancing operations of ICE in sensitive areas, casting the net to expedite deportations for immigrants and migrants without proper documents. Now, the raids can be conducted in neighborhoods and workplaces. In a statement, a spokesperson for the Department of Homeland Security says this change will keep criminals from hiding in churches and schools to avoid arrest and empower Border Patrol and ICE to enforce immigration laws.
Migrant communities across the country bracing for possible raids. The Pentagon will begin deploying as many as 1,500 active duty troops to help secure the southern border in the coming days.
All right, deportations in cities like New York could start soon. Our Jessica Formoso sat down with the commissioner of the mayor's office of immigrant affairs to see how they're preparing.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program.
Before he was sworn in, President Donald Trump was vocal about initiating the largest mass deportation in U.S. history. And in his first day in office,
all illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
While details of how and when are scarce, the commander-in-chief has said he plans to mobilize the U.S. military to enforce the operation, an operation that has many migrants on edge. Mayor Adams, who has met with President Trump, has been vocal about deporting migrants who have committed violent crimes.
People who commit these violent crimes must be addressed. And that is our conversation with ICE.
What is that looking like in real time? Let's discuss with the White House border czar, Tom Homan. Congratulations on beginning the actual work. And thank you for joining me as promised.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Tom, let's look at it two ways. One group looks at what you're doing and says, yeah, this is what ICE always does. His guys rounded up 370 people or so. During the Biden administration, they rounded up 300 something a day. This isn't really that different. How is it different?
Well, look, the arrests are a lot higher than were during the Biden administration. And we're out there. We just started this nationwide operation, and right now, in the first couple of days, we're at over 3,000 criminals arrested. And that's a significant impact on public safety. The thing we're doing different from the Biden administration is we're not holding ICE to a lower standard. Under the Mayorkas memorandum, ICE wasn't able to arrest all the public safety threats in the country. You had, like you said earlier, they had to be convicted of a serious crime. There's nothing in the Immigration and Nationality Act that says you got to be convicted of a crime if you're here illegally to be removed. You can be removed simply for being illegally. So we've told ICE to concentrate out of the gate. As I told you in the last show, our focus is on arresting public safety threats and national security threats. That's exactly what we're doing now.
Let me ask you about that. The concern of the Democrats is you're going to round up dreamers, and you're going to round up people who have done penny ante offenses, who are otherwise contributing here, and that's too harsh.
Well, look, you know, the number of collateral arrests are going to be higher during this operation for one reason, and one reason only, because we're not allowed to arrest the criminal alien inside of a jail in sanctuary cities like New York and Chicago and L.A. and Portland. And, you know, the major the target-rich environments where a lot of illegal aliens domicile. They're not letting us in the county jail because of sanctuary laws. If we could arrest the bad guy in the safety and security of a jail, which is safer for the officers, safer for the aliens, safer for the community, then there'd be a lot less of those type, like you just said, low-level offenders. There'd be a lot less of them arrested. But when you force us in the community, we're going to find that guy sooner or later. It takes more time and it's less efficient than getting him in a county jail. But when we find him, he's most likely being with others. And if they're in the United States illegally, they're going to be arrested too, because we're not going to do what the Biden administration said. We're not going to say ICE can't, because the Biden administration, here's your instructions to ICE. Being in the country illegally on his own is not enough for you to effect an arrest. Ignore the law, ignore the oath you took. You need to have a serious crime. There's nothing in the law that says it, so they're going to force us in neighborhoods, and we're not going to tell ICE to turn a blind eye to an illegal alien. They're going to come too. So the sanctuary city is going to get exactly what they don't want. More agents in the neighborhoods and more collateral arrests while we're doing this criminal operation.
Why can't the president, let alone the federal government, has such sweeping, if not complete, or as they say in the law, plenary authority when it comes to immigration? Why are states and municipalities able to keep federal agents out in so-called sanctuary cities?
Well, look, they'll be taking the court real soon. They've already been warned that federal law overrides any local jurisdiction law. So this is going to be played out in the courts because, you know, they got to understand. I said, I don't know if I said it in your last show or not. I'm amazed every day when I wake up that there's an elected mayor or elected governor or elected city councilman that doesn't want public safety threats removed from their community. They should be working hand in hand with them. Like when I had my discussions with Mayor Adams in New York, he made it clear, no, he'll help me with the criminals, but he doesn't want to be an immigration officer. I don't want to be an immigration officer. I want to be a cop working with cops and help protect this community. When it comes to immigration enforcement and the non-criminals, leave that up to me. That's my job and that's ICE's job. But public servants, people elected by the people, politicians elected by the people, their number one responsibility is protection of the communities. So I just don't understand, why not let us in tax-funded jail to arrest the bad guy that you already decided to lock him in a jail cell for obvious reasons? Well, when you're done with him, give him to us, rather than release him back into the community, because where's he going to reoffend? In the very community he lives, the immigrant community. So it puts the immigrant community at greater risk of crime. And I swear to you, if anybody went to an immigrant community and had a town hall and asked them a simple question, would you rather have ICE operate in your community or the jail? They'd all say jail, because immigrant communities, even though they're here illegally, after they get here, they're God-fearing family people. They don't want a predator in their neighborhoods either. So let's work together and get the criminals in the safety and security of the jail. It makes sense.
Also, you know, we've talked about this before, and I know you're dealing with it now, going out, you've been inviting media. The problem's going to have two prongs, right? I don't count the cost one. Government spends so much money on so many things. I don't see that as being a real obstacle to entry on this operation. But the second one is going to be the courts, and that's not us. The lawyers will figure that out. I'll interview them. The third is going to be optics, that you're sweeping up the wrong people, the wrong way, breaking up families. I'm telling you, News Nation will be there. You give me a call, Tom. I'll come. I'll watch any operation you want to help there be a public eye to balance any scrutiny with the truth of observation. I'm there. You ask, I'm there.
I just talked to your producer, and she sent me an email while we're waiting for the show to start. So I'll talk to the right people tomorrow, and we'll get you out there, Chris, because we got nothing to hide.
Look.
And like I said, you look at the numbers.
I get it. I get it. You know why I want to do it. You saw what happened in New Jersey, right? Where one of the mayors says they're arresting citizens. They're arresting citizens. They're making mistakes. I don't know. I don't know because I'm not there. You know, if we don't have eyes on the ground. Did you hear of that allegation?
No, I have not.
So, you know, it's something obviously. So, you know, you suss it out on your own. I'm not stating it as a fact.
What I can tell you right now, Chris, is we arrested 1,300 people. Over 1,000 of them were criminals. Who are the other ones? They're either fugitives who've been through immigration court in order to remove but didn't leave and became a fugitive, or collaterals. Where did the collateral arrests happen? In sanctuary cities, because they forced us into the community. Like I said from day one, no one's off the table. If the United States are illegally, you got a problem. But we are concentrating on public safety threats first. And it just makes sense. I don't care if a Republican, a Democrat, independent. Why not let law enforcement go into a county jail, a taxpayer county jail, to arrest a guy that you locked in a jail cell? So obviously it's a public safety threat. That would solve a lot of this problem. I hope the sanctuary cities come around. I really hope once they see what we're doing, and we'll invite you out, we'll be very transparent. Once they see that we really are concentrated on the criminals, that they'll come to us and sit at the table and work with us.
Tom Homan, I appreciate the job you're doing. And again, I'm checking on a regular basis with people who've worked with you, who are watching what you're doing now. Everybody says you're doing it for the right reasons, and we'll watch the process, and hopefully it's done the right way. Thank you very much for joining me tonight, and I'll see you soon.
I'll see you out in the field.
Story in Newark here tonight. The city's mayor says a business in his city was, quote, raided, and 3 people were arrested. Allie Bauman spoke with the owner of that business.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement confirms that agents conducted a targeted enforcement operation at a work site in Newark today. The owner of this fish market tells me that about a dozen ICE agents showed up unannounced, asked to check his employees' identification, and ended up taking 3 people into custody. Surveillance video shows what appears to be federal immigration agents taking a man into custody outside the Ocean Seafood Depot at Adams and Delancey Streets in Newark Thursday. The owner tells me over the phone agents came in around 11 a.m. asking to see documentation for his employees.
They didn't have a court order I didn't even ask.
He says a manager tried to show his veterans card, but agents did not accept it.
A couple of the guys couldn't show their identification. 3 of them got arrested. 26 years in business, I've never seen anything like this.
The mayor of Newark, which is a sanctuary city, is calling the actions egregious. Mayor Ross Baraka saying in a statement ICE agents detained undocumented residents as well as citizens without producing a warrant. One of the detainees is a U.S. military veteran who suffered the indignity of having the legitimacy of his military documentation questioned.
Do you think that this is going to deter your other employees from showing up to work tomorrow?
Yes, exactly. That's the question. That's not really helping my business, obviously, or any business.
And Newark's mayor went on to claim that ICE's actions were in violation of the 4th Amendment. When we asked ICE for more information on the operation, a spokesperson told us that since it's an ongoing investigation, there's no further info. From Newark, Allie Bauman, CBS News, New York.
And in a statement late tonight, New Jersey Senators Cory Booker and Andy Kim said in part, quote, "We are deeply concerned about the news of an ICE raid in Newark today. Our offices have reached out to the Department of Homeland Security to demand answers. And we should say it is not clear if today's immigration operation was part of the new crackdown ordered by President Trump."
They're wasting no time. And ICE is making nearly 500 arrests in the span of just 33 hours. The New York Post cover, "The ICE man cometh." President Trump also signing more executive orders, including one designed to block illegal crossings. And he told Sean Hannity that Joe Biden's failed policies forced him to take swift action.
Why would somebody say that open borders are good, where jails and mental institutions from other countries and gang members right off the streets of the toughest cities in the world are being brought to the United States of America and emptied out into our country? Why would anybody that even likes, you don't have to love our country, you have to like it. Why would anybody that likes our country, the Democrats, allow that to happen? And even now, I watch them on television, they're trying to justify it. You can't justify it.
So those ICE raids taking place in many parts of the country, including the sanctuary city of Boston. That's where Bill Maloogian went on an exclusive right along with ICE, and Bill joins us now to tell us what he found and what he saw.
was released from local custody just the day before. Their detainer request was ignored because of sanctuary policies. And in a sign of shifting priorities with the new Trump administration, this man, who was in the same apartment as the target, was also arrested after ICE determined he's also in the U.S. illegally. This is what ICE calls collateral.
So you guys got your main target just now, but you got somebody else. What just happened?
So our main target was released by a sanctuary jurisdiction, not honoring a detainer. That person was released back into the community, and when we went to go find him, he's with somebody else who was previously removed from the United States. So he's going to go today too.
And that is exactly what Border Czar Tom Homan has warned would happen.
When we find the bad guy, he's probably with others that are in the United States illegally. They may not be a criminal priority, but we're not walking away from them.
ICE Boston says they will continue to go into sanctuary jurisdictions and do their job.
Today was a good day. Today we took several significant public safety threats out of our communities. Unfortunately, a lot were released by sanctuary policies, but we're here to tell the Commonwealth and the rest of the country that we're going to find them whether they're released or not.
And guys, shortly after we finished filming, ICE Boston told us they arrested 2 more targets in other parts of town away from our cameras. One of those targets is a previously deported Honduran illegal alien who was arrested for raping a woman while putting a gun in her mouth. The other target they got is a Haitian man who first flew into the United States in 2023 as part of President Biden's controversial migrant flights mass parole program. Well, they just picked him up yesterday because he's been arrested locally for sexual assault. We'll send it back to you.
Bill Malugin, it was fascinating to watch all of that. I think I was just saying to Bill, this is terrible for Joe Biden and the legacy that he tried to leave behind. A question from me, how soon will they actually be leaving the country? Does that take a long time?
Tonight we take you on patrol with federal agents as they begin to enforce President Trump's new mass deportation policy. Correspondent Bill Malugin has exclusive access and some amazing images. He reports tonight from Boston.
We're going to be targeting some extremely violent offenders today.
The White House is reacting tonight to Fox News' exclusive embed with ICE deportation officers in the sanctuary city of Boston.
I'm not going back to Haiti. You feel me?
During that embed, we witnessed ICE arresting this combative Haitian man, who ICE says is a gang member with 17 criminal convictions. And he had this to say.
Trump, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
Vice President J.D. Vance reacting to that today, writing on X, quote, an illegal alien with 17 criminal convictions really hates President Trump for sending him back to Haiti. He's grateful to Biden for letting him come here. I'm glad we're deporting him. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt also responding, posting on X, quote, bye-bye.
Looks like we got movement, target vehicle coming out.
Fox News witnessed ICE make a handful of arrests of other egregious criminal aliens. They include this MS-13 gang member wanted for aggravated murder in El Salvador with an Interpol red notice out for his arrest. This Brazilian illegal alien also with an Interpol red notice out for his arrest for armed robbery. This Salvadoran man arrested locally for rape and released by a sanctuary jurisdiction.
Yo, ¿cómo se llama?
This Dominican man charged locally with assault with a deadly weapon, a box cutter, and heroin trafficking. And this Guatemalan illegal alien, who ICE says is an active MS-13 gang member, facing local gun charges.
Today was a good day. Today we took several significant public safety threats out of our communities. Unfortunately, a lot were released by sanctuary policies.
And Fox News has learned after our embed with ICE Boston ended, they arrested 2 more targets, including this previously deported Honduran illegal alien, now charged with raping a victim while putting a gun in her mouth. And this Haitian national, who ICE says first flew into the U.S. in 2023 as part of former President Biden's controversial migrant flights parole program. He is now charged with sexually assaulting a victim above age 14. Also new this evening, New York Attorney General Letitia James released a statement with 10 other state AGs declaring that state and local law enforcement cannot be commandeered for federal immigration enforcement.
We are not individuals who are the face of resistance. We are willing to work with the office of President Trump.
And Brett, regarding that Haitian man you just saw screaming F Trump to our cameras and saying he's not going to go back to Haiti, Trump's border czar Tom Homan was on Fox this evening, and he responded to that man directly, telling him, quote, well, he's wrong. He's going back to Haiti. I can tell him that, end quote. We'll send it back to you.
Hey, Bill, there's a Border Patrol in California saying tonight that an American hiker was shot by suspected cartel members near the border yesterday. What are you hearing about that?
Yeah, so this happened in Border Patrol's El Centro sector, kind of near the Jacumba area we've reported from before. I'm told by a DHS source, 2 suspected cartel gunmen armed with handguns were about 1,000 yards inside the U.S. when they confronted 2 hikers in the area, yelling at them in Spanish. The hikers didn't understand, so the cartel gunmen yelled, come, come. Well, the hikers feared that that might be a kidnapping attempt, so they turned around and went the other way. The gunmen fired 2 warning shots in the air. The hikers still didn't turn around, so they ended up shooting at them. They hit one of the men in the leg. He's an American citizen. It was a through and through. He is expected to be okay. But Border Patrol is now increasing their patrols in the area. They've brought out their elite BORTAC unit, which is basically the SWAT team of Border Patrol. They also have marksmen in the area. They say they will be ready to confront those gunmen if they're seen again.
All right, Bill Malugin live in Boston. Bill, thanks.
Madre tú. Oye tú, pues de qué madre se está hecho ese hombre, tanto putazo.
Aquí al lado de mi casa, señores. Llegó migración. Ay, Diosito. Ay, Diosito.
To understand how we got here, let's take a step back and look at the numbers. According to Congressional Budget Office estimates, people they consider other foreign nationals, which includes those who entered the U.S. illegally, those whose temporary legal status has expired, and those who are awaiting court proceedings, they marginally went up and down during the first Trump administration. But on former President Biden's watch, that population increased every year by 850,000 in 2021, 2 million in 2022, 2.4 million in 2023, and 1.8 million in 2024. Now, unlawful crossings did fall after Mexican government cracked down on migrants, and the Biden administration added asylum restrictions last summer. But the Trump administration wants aggressive action, and communities across the country are bracing for ICE raids. That includes Chicago's predominantly Latino neighborhood of Little Village, where officials told Bloomberg that foot traffic is down 50%, and advocates are handing out Know Your Rights flyers. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security says locations that were once off limits to raids, like schools, hospitals, and places of worship, are now fair game. And some police departments, including in Chicago and Las Vegas, have vowed not to assist with immigration enforcement if a crime has not been reported. But the Justice Department says that could be grounds for prosecution.
So what might these raids look like, especially given the non-compliance on the local level? Joining us now is John Sandwig. He's a former acting ICE director. He served in the Obama administration. John, thank you very much for joining us. Just before the election, Tom Homan's the current ICE director told 60 Minutes that there are not going to be mass roundups. There's not going to be concentration camps. He's heard all the scary language. It's ridiculous. So what is the reality, as someone who's been in the job that he's currently in, when you go out and you make raids and you find somebody, what happens? What's it like, the raid itself and then the aftermath?
Yeah, Tony, I think it's important to kind of break this down to the traditional way that ICE does business, where all the resources, that are applied to immigration enforcement come from the Department of Homeland Security. And what it looks like the administration is planning, because I think those are two dramatically different things. Traditionally, what ICE does is ICE starts looking at the criminal justice system. We look for targets, individuals who have been convicted of a serious crime, who for some reason or another escaped ICE's grasp as they went through jails or prisons. What then ICE does is kind of build a target list. We go go out and knock on doors and try to find those individuals. When they're apprehended, they're put in detention, and then they go through the immigration court. But we've never seen anything like what's going on here, Tony, where the administration is going to kind of use all the resources of the entire federal government, including the military, to supplement DHS resources and do things kind of like what we've heard about, enlisting border alcohol and tobacco firearms, ATF agents, DEA agents, kind of signing up sheriff's offices across the country, and then building mass detention centers on military bases. This is going to be a completely different type of immigration enforcement.
So, John, advocates locally are handing out Know Your Rights flyers. They're trying to arm undocumented immigrants with some kind of defense. But are there any rights that they can use if they are arrested?
Well, traditionally, migrants in this country, I think this is something that a lot of people didn't understand. The biggest challenge ICE has always had to, ICE's capacity to deport is traditionally 250,000, you could argue up to 400,000. But the biggest challenge they face were these backlogs in the immigration courts. And I don't think most people understood that the majority of migrants in this country cannot be deported until they have an opportunity to present their defenses or their claims or, their right to stay in the United States to an immigration judge. Traditionally, that gives them a lot of rights, but it's very clear where the administration is going here. They're looking to strip the migrants of that due process. They know that mass deportation is impossible if you have to go through these backlogged immigration courts where there's 3 million pending cases and only 900 judges. On average, it's taking, in many cases, rather, 3 to 4 years for someone to be deported. So what they've done is they've characterized this as a foreign invasion. And you see that in all these executive orders. It treats this not as a domestic law enforcement problem, but an actual foreign policy, national security problem. And what he's doing is he's laying the groundwork to invoke the Alien Enemies Act, which he said in his inaugural speech he would do. And what that ostensibly would do, if it's not stopped by a court, would allow them to strip migrants of those due process. So a lot of those Know Your Rights bills and pamphlets that were given, some of them still apply, but the majority of them, and the opportunity to present legal defenses to an immigration judge, it's very clear that the administration is planning on stripping those by calling this, by invoking these military-esque authorities and invoking the Alien Enemies Act.
And John, a lot of sanctuary cities, places that have said that they are not going to fully comply with the federal government effort to deport people, they are not going to, aid federal agents necessarily fully. How much does that impede ICE?
It's been an irritant for ICE. Traditionally, it has not impeded ICE too dramatically. Look, the main way that has historically hurt ICE is ICE has visibility into every single person booked into all the jails and prisons in the United States. And so what ICE wants to do, and what we want to do for officer safety reasons, is take custody of criminals when they're booked in a jail because they're in a secure environment. And frankly, it's also more efficient to take custody of people there rather than going out in the streets. But so the sanctuary policy, but even where sanctuary policies where you have some cities, let's say you say we're not, typically they would only say we're not going to share with you people we deem not to be public safety threats. But there were some jurisdictions that probably, in my opinion, went too far and would say individuals convicted of violent crimes, we will not let ICE officers take them into custody. But in those cases, ICE would then just have to go onto the streets and find those individuals. But again, we're going well beyond all of that now. We've never seen, the reaction to sanctuary policies traditionally has been political. We complain about it publicly, highlight how dangerous people are being released on the streets. But as you noted earlier in your reporting, this administration has now told the Department of Justice that could be considered violations of federal law, harboring migrants, and that is going to be a top priority for the Department of Justice to potentially pursue criminal investigations of state officials who do not cooperate with this mass deportation effort.